Good morning, viewers. Welcome to today's edition of Track, Telling Reality and Creating Knowledge. Today, we are going to be discussing an interesting topic, data collection, tools, and technique. And right here on the studio, we have our doctor from Faculty of Farms, which will be taking us through and giving us an accurate knowledge on this topic. I'm your host, Ago Nkechi. So, what are the main obstacles faced during primary data collection in field research?
Okay, when you talk of obstacles faced in our field research, there are so many of them. And I want to start by drawing a background to what research is all about before you're talking about the obstacles for the benefit of those that need to know. Research is the bedrock of the growth and development and sustainability of every society. What that implies that for any society to grow and continue to develop, it has to depend on research. Now, this research are carried out based on several sources. One is the primary source and the other is the secondary source. Our concern here is basically on the primary sources. And the primary sources of research has a lot of obstacles that you face when you go to the field. One of them is, first and foremost, is infrastructure. When you talk of infrastructure, you're talking about the road that leads you, particularly for those of us in the humanities, that our primary sources are basically has to do with the humans. You need to travel from one place to the other to get this information from your respondents. We know in Africa and Nigeria particularly that most of our roads are not good. So one of the basic infrastructural challenge you have is the road. You have to travel, you have to make a journey of, maybe you have an interview with a respondent that would need to take like say 2 hours and you're supposed to be there by 10. You're doing a journey of 1 hour, originally supposed to take you 1 hour. While on the road, because of the nature of the road, you see yourself arriving late, and that affects your time in the time that you have with the respondent, because you have been he or she must have reserved a particular time for you to meet with him or her. Secondly, we'll talk about same infrastructure. We look at the issue of internet connectivities, and also the use of the gadgets you carry. You find yourself in the field and you need to connect to the internet, probably to upload your information to a server back home, and there's no network. You need to start looking for where to get network, and in the process, time goes. Are we together? And it's a basic challenge that we found in the field. We also have the issue of the cooperation of the respondents, which has to do with the kind of question you want to pose to him or her. Some respondents, you make contact with them, and you get to hear them ask you for huge sum of money that probably you yourself cannot even afford, because they feel you are loaded. For you to come down to the environment in search of information, then you are loaded. They begin to bug you with how much will you pay, how much will you not pay, and at the end of the day, if you cannot afford what they think they want to take from you, they decline your interview with them. Fourthly, we also have the issue of respondents being biased. That also has to do with the information you want to get from them. If they see that the information you want to get from them maybe has anything to do with their belief in this time, religious belief, political inclination, and whatever, they don't want to hide, keep away some information from you. And all this, at the end of the day, affects the accuracy of the research you are actually looking for.
Wow, that's so insightful. Okay, how does poor infrastructure?
So like I said, it affects the accuracy, your ability to give the full-fledged information that is required. To give the full-fledged information that is required. The findings of your research is affected, is limited, both in scope and length, because 2 hours, and following from the hindrances that we just mentioned and talked about, and if you see yourself doing an interview of 1 hour for 30 minutes, obviously you won't get all you require from the person. So poor infrastructure is a very big challenge when getting information from the rural areas.
Thank you so very much. What role does respondent bias play in affecting the accuracy of collected data?
It also falls back to inaccuracy of the data. When a respondent is biased, he or she is bound not to give you the required information, to give you the exact information. He or she might have it, but for whatever interest best known to him or her, he or she keeps it away from you. And because you don't have the required information, you see yourself turning out half-baked research outputs.
Okay. How long do language and cultural differences impact data gathering?
Language is a core when you talk of humans. It's a core. You can take it from men. You can take it from the society. Your ability to understand the language of the area you're going to research goes a long way to determine the volume and the quality of information you get from that environment. By the time you have a language barrier, you'll be expected, or you'll be expected to get an interpreter. The interpreter also has his own challenge. How effective is this interpreter? Like, if permit me, I'm a historian, so we always go back to history. So in the colonial days, where you get interpreters coming to interpret between the colonial master and the rural populace, the colonial master will say something different, and the interpreter will interpret something different based on his or her own understanding. You get me? So when you get this interpreter, it is whatever the interpreter gives back to you that you take, and most of the times you get haphazard information from the interpreter. So language barrier is a strong factor that affects data gathering in the rural area.
Thank you so very much, Doctor. And to our viewers, remember to send in your questions and your comments in the comment section, and you send in your question through our WhatsApp line. Okay, back to you, Doctor. What ethical issues arise during data collection, and how can they be addressed?
Okay, when you talk of ethical issues, they differ depending on the research question you're coming with. One, you must first and foremost get the consent of your respondent. You must give him or her prior information that, I'll be coming so and so date to interview on this and this topic. It is when it has been agreed upon by you and the person that you come down to ask questions. For instance, if you are coming in with sensitive research questions, for instance, let's say the issue of the Nigerian Civil War, and you are coming to somebody who has suffered pains of the war, you need to prepare the mind of such a person before you come to meet him or her for such question, and for him or her to also consent to giving you whatever information that he or she has. You understand? And after that, the next thing you do is to ensure that you give the privacy, the individual privacy that is required, letting the researcher, the respondent know that whatever you are getting from him or her is purposely solely for academic purpose and nothing beyond. Thank you very much. Okay,
so you said you need to get the interviewer, you need to get him or her prepare the mind of the person. How do you get him or her prepared?
All right, like I said, you need to make contact with whosoever you're going to interview, and while making contact with her, before meeting one-on-one, you tell the person, Sama, this is the area that I intend interviewing you on. Do you think it's comfortable with you? Would you want to answer such questions? Are you following, man? So if he or she has agreed that, yes, I will, answer this question, that is when you even come to meet with him or her in the first place. If he or she says, no, I will not want to have anything to do with such question, all you need to do is to let him or her be, and then get another interviewee.
Okay, interesting. In what ways does technology improve or complicate data collection?
Technology has come to stay. We cannot do without technology. But it has helped in making data available. Anywhere you go, all you need to do is just a click of the finger, and you have a lot of information regarding the research you want to do. So technology have made data available for research. But the challenge that technology also has brought is it has made humans to become lazy. We have decided to make technology our master instead of a servant. We are supposed to direct technology, do this for me. But these days, we run to technology, we see technology as a demigod. These days, somebody might even just want to write a letter, an informal letter, you see him or her, is it ChatGPT or what do you call it? Or Gemini?
ChatGPT.
ChatGPT, thank you very much. Yeah. Gemini, and but Gemini, okay. Yeah. So, but these were not in the open before. Before we use our cognitive human thinking to do writings. Students, something with students, you give questions, an assignment question in class, and all the students do is just rush into the internet and download everything that is available there without making that cognitive human input. And I want to let us know here, and my viewers out there to know that these technologies were developed by humans. If humans are not perfect, then there's nothing the human being will do that is perfect. Are we together? They make mistakes. For instance, I have a personal experience. There was a day I was doing the work and I had to consult. Like I said, it makes data a little bit easy, but you don't rely on it. So when I consulted and it gave me some information, the URL link it gave, I went to check. I saw that I was talking like that. It came from one of those, let me not mention. So the excessive reliability of man on this technology is a big challenge.
So are you now saying that using technology to carry out our research, we shouldn't do that, or we should do it a bit, or advice?
I'm not saying we shouldn't do that. I just said I used it recently, but don't be wholly dependent on it.
Okay.
Don't be wholly dependent on it, because if you do, it's bound to fail you. And also, I'm not a psychologist, but I think I have one or two a link with them, and I get to understand that there's a portion in the human brain that God created that basically serves as a thinking hub of the man. By the time you start depending wholly on technology, you are killing that aspect of your brain. Just like you and I know that whatever is not put in use depreciates. Do you understand? So at the end of the day, bring in technology, bring in your cognitive human input, and then you get a near balance or perfect work, not to wholly depend on technology.
Okay, shouldn't wholly depend on technology. Yes, we use it a bit, yes, and allow the other part of our brain to get to function.
Exactly.
Thank you, sir. Okay, what challenges do researchers face when collecting data during emergencies?
Okay, when you're collecting data during emergency, one of the first questions is the safety of life. Because when you talk of emergency, it has to do with you not being prepared for such occurrence. For instance, there's a war just erupted, and you have to go there to collect information. You have to first and foremost be sure that you're going to have safety of your life first and foremost. Because if you go there and God forbid anything happens to you, it's a very big challenge. Do you understand? Then the issue of funding, like you rarely use the word emergency. If there's an emergency and you need to collect information, you need to move immediately. How available is the fund that is required for you to take up for such information? Then also, who is available there to give you the information that is required? In a war-torn zone where people are running helter-skelter, who would you want to say, wait, I want to ask a question? Are you following me? So these are the challenges, some of the challenges that researchers face when it comes to emergencies.
What does lack of funding limit the quality and scope of data collection? Does lack of funding limit it?
Of course, from our discuss thus far, you should know. Because where there is no fund, how do you even engage in doing the research in the first place? You need to transport, you need to accommodate yourself, you need to pay research assistants, you need to get equipment that is required for the research and all whatnot. Where this fund is not available, obviously you cannot do too much. You cannot do much.
Okay. What strategies can be used to ensure the reliability and validity of collected data?
Strategies to be used in collecting it. I'm going to quote E.H. Carr, the father of modern history. He said in his work that, What is History? That the facts are not available to the historian, just like the fish or to the fishmonger. It behoves on the historian to go into the river to catch the fish. That's to get the facts that he or she required. And in the course of catching this fish, you determine which fish to catch. Invariably, what I'm saying is this: collection of data. For you to determine the reliability of your information, you need to use same question for several persons that you can come in contact with. So at the end of the day, you sit down and share this information based on what you are looking for. And at the end of the day, say for instance, you are able to ask 10 persons, when was ADUM established? At the University of Nigeria, when was it established? You'll be surprised that among the 10 persons you ask, 4 might give you the wrong answer. Do you understand? Then 6 have given you the right answer. The next thing is for you to sit down and begin to make other research. How true is the answers of these 6, and how true or untrue is the answer of these 5? And on that basis, you make your choice on what to pick.
Wow. It's been interesting. Thank you so much, Doctor, for coming to our studio today. Please, our viewers, it's time to call in, send in your questions and your comments on the comment section, and send in your questions on the WhatsApp number. It's been a lovely moment. You know, for the past 3 weeks, we have been on research. We have been on research for the past 3 weeks, and it has been interesting. It has been so much impactful. And I believe, our viewers, I believe that you got 1 or 2 as take home today. How do you handle the bias you talked about?
I just, in the course of our discourse, the last question, I want to believe I answered that question of how to handle the bias. Because if you don't just rely on the information given to you by one person, you have other sources to consult. For instance, if I want to know the history of Ibuzo, now Ibuzo, the community hosting our university, I'll consult with the chief, the Ibuzo of Ibuzo. I'll consult with the and also consult with the youth. So you see that my consultation cuts across different generations. Are you following me? So at the end of the day, I will now begin to analyze the submission from the OMU, the submission from the elders in council, the submission from the youth, and then you shift this information and you try to pick a balance from amongst them, and you are close to, because as we say in history, there's no objectivity in any research. Even the process of you picking from among this, it makes you also bias yourself. Do you know that? As a researcher, you are also biased because the pick of your topic is enough go to show that you are also biased. your selectivity, the process of selecting a topic for yourself also makes you biased. And that's why in history we say we go for we don't go for absolute objectivity, but relative objectivity, because it is based on what you want that you go out for the research.
Okay, sir. Thank you, Dr. Freeman Abutu from Faculty of Arts, Management and Social Science. Thank you for being on the studio with us. To our viewers, remember to send in your questions and your comments on our comment section. Okay, so we have questions here. Someone is asking, what are some suggestions that you will give to a new researcher to tackle this infrastructural problem?
The suggestion I'll give to a researcher to tackle.
New researcher,
somebody venturing into the field in the first place.
Yes, sir.
If I must answer that question, then I'll say gather money and buy whatever, buy the infrastructure that is required, build the roads, get internet supply to the rural areas, as it were, buy the best of equipment. But can that be done? The answer is no. So the suggestion I will give to such a person is try to make good use of the infrastructures available to you. For instance, if you are to do research in the rural area where there is no network, what you do is plead with the researcher, please can we just shift a little bit? I had such experience really when I engaged in a research within this Anyama axis, and the environment where I was to conduct the research, I wasn't getting in it, and I pleaded with the respondent, please, if you don't mind, I will pay for the transport. Could we just shift to a neighboring community where I actually did the research prior, and I know that there's network. Then we shifted there and we did it. So arm yourself with extra fund so that where if you go there and there's no there's no network, you can now shift to a neighboring community where there is network. What you do is this: if you are to do the research, if you have time agreed with the research time to be like 10, leave your house or wherever you are as early as possible, so you'll be able to beat the time no matter how bad the road is.
Okay, well, you've done justice to that. Okay, the second question goes this way: how reliable are qualitative data collection techniques like interviews and focused group discussions? Isn't it subjective to individual biases? Did you get the question,
Yes,
sir?
I got the question.
How reliable are qualitative data collection technique like interviews and focused group discussions? Isn't it subjective to individual biases?
All right, thank you very much for that question. Yes, I agree with you that it's subjective to individual biases, because like we say, it's what a person knows that he or she offers. You can't give out what you don't know. But for you to know how subjective it is, you prepare, like I say, you prepare the mind of the person. And for you to interview a person, you need to do a research. You know, what's this person's background? For instance, when I was talking here, I said if I want to do a research on Ibuzo, I'll see the Obuzo of Ibuzo, I'll see the Omu. These are prominent persons that are well versed with the history of Ibuzo. So even if they are going to be biased, it won't be completely biased. Yes, subjectivity can take from man, just like I just rightly told us that in history we don't believe in absolute objectivity. Well, it's subjective. Whosoever is speaking to you, we're speaking from the point that he or she knows. So subjectivity, yes, but relative subjectivity.
Okay, let's go into the next question. What tools do you advise someone starting out in research to begin with? What tool?
I don't understand. Tool as in
tools. Which of the tools do you advise someone starting out to begin with? Yes, sir.
First and foremost, you should read the books. I read the books. Look for documents. Look for books that are related to the topic that you want to research on. and know what other scholars there have done before you. That's where the issue of literature review comes in. By the time you review what other scholars have done before you, you know the gap that is left that has not been covered, and you can now come in. That makes your work new and also contributing to knowledge in society.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. The next question. Please explain the concept of content analysis as it relates to data collection.
Content analysis.
Yes, sir.
When you talk of content analysis, by the time you gather your information, you begin to pick them one after the other and begin to see how related it is with the work you are doing and the importance of it to the work. In that process, you are analyzing what the information you got and its relationship with what you're out to research on.
Okay, Doc, I want to ask you, do you think government have a role to play in this research gathering? And what are the roles they need to play, the urgent ones?
Yeah, government actually have a role. You've heard of the USAID, the aid research, the aid other things. We also have them in Africa, but the challenge is, are they effective? The government has a very a big role to play, because from my introduction, I told us that the bedrock for the development, the sustainability and development of any society is on research. It is the information you get that you use in governance. It is the information you get that you use in health. It is the information you get that you use in food production and all whatnot. All that makes a society survive as a whole is dependent on information which is gotten from research. So the government of any nation who really wants her society to grow and develop must be involved in research. We talked about infrastructural challenge like roads. It behoves on the government to do that. You follow me? It behoves on the government to ensure that there are good roads. It behoves on the government to liaise with non-governmental organizations like the multinational corporations to ensure that there's network availability anywhere you go in the society, so that this will also aid your research. It behoves on the government to provide security. They require security for a researcher in the field. They're not sending a soldier to guide him or her back. And
the language barrier has been brought down to its minimum?
the answer is no. The language barrier has not been brought down to its minimum, because in the rural areas, not everybody don't understand English. They understand the prevailing language, as it were. So if you are doing technology, and if you are saying technology has reduced it to the barest minimum, you speak Igbo. Even with their so-called translators, I also had an experience where we got the Anyoma Igbo dialect, and we imputed into a translating app, and what it turned out was completely out of place from what the interviewees gave to us. So the language barrier has not been brought down, because I know the person wants to refer me to the fact that there are apps that interpret languages now. I want to take mistakes.
In that case, what do you advise for a researcher to overcome this language barrier? What's your advice?
I'll advise that telling you to go learn the language of whatever area you want to research will be too broad. So ensure you get 1 or 2 or 3 interpreters to go with. That will cost you money anyway. But I think by the time this person interprets his or her part, the other person interprets his or her part, the 3 of them put sets together, they should be able to say, oh, this is what should be the best amongst these 3.
Okay, let's check in for one more question. Is content analysis different from literature review? Is content analysis different from literature review?
Yes, they are different, but the line dividing them is very thin. Content analysis, how is this thing Is the information relevant to my work? Literature review, what area has been covered and what space is left for me to come in. Do you understand the difference now? So one is what is information is available for me to work on, and the other is what gap is left in this research framework for me to cover. What has other scholars done, and what is left for me to come in and cover.
Okay, thank you so very much, Dr. Abutu Freeman, for coming today to being with us. It has been interesting. It has been wow. It has been wonderful with you. It has been interesting. It has been wow. It has been wonderful with you. You've taken us through this in-depth knowledge of data analysis technique and tools collection. Thank you for finding it our time to stay with us. And to our viewers, thank you very much for being with us, staying tuned, and bringing up your questions and your comments on the comment section. Remember to put this at work as a researcher, getting into the research. There are so many things to put in place. Like he said for you to venture into researching, you need to check the area that have been covered by the previous researchers before you now know where to step in. Then you said so much that really impressed me, because you never wanted to discourage a beginner, like this language barrier and translator. You said something. You said the person can go with an interpreter to interpret because you can't solely trust the translator. You've tried it and the result you got was not impressive. And you to do like this, to get an interpreter that will help you go through the journey of researching. So to our viewers, I want to say thank you once again. And remember, we'll meet same time on track next week, Monday. Thank you. See you. Bye.